temptation to tinker at any stage? Were you quite set in your mind from early on in the week that this was going to be the 23?
No, obviously, when we had the selection meeting as a coaching group and with our selectors, there was lots of discussions. But at the end of the day, we felt that there was everybody that played on Sunday had a proper performance. You know, as an individual and as a team, they played quite well together. So, looking at that, we decided to just go for continuity. And there was no injuries from a medical point of view. There was no injuries to anyone. So from a performance point of view, there wasn't any reason to change, and from a medical point of view, there wasn't any reason to change. So we decided to keep it the same.
Good morning, gentlemen. Skipper, can I ask you, Rasmus mentioned that you guys are well aware of what is coming your way this coming weekend. In fact, he used the word, there will be proper beef coming your way this weekend. Do you guys understand? Is that the way you understand it? And are you guys prepared for that beef that is coming your way?
Yeah, of course we know what happened last year and obviously the previous World Cup, and a lot of their players were there. They would obviously want to prove something, and they honestly the way they've improved, you know, compared to before the tournament, can see the intent and the aggressions and the work rate they have around the field. It's completely a different team, and that's why they're the only unbeaten team in the tournament, you know. So, but we know we're not silly, you know. It actually didn't matter who we're playing against this weekend. We know how big it is. Our motivation doesn't come from what the opponent brings. It comes within us and the support that we have from back home. So, yeah, they obviously will have their motives and everything, and we have our own, and ours is always constant. It's to play for one another and to play for the jersey that you're putting on, and then obviously for the people back home.
Jacques, sorry. It's a two-part question. The first part is, you've had some really physical games, Ireland and France. How will that impact on this game? Do you think it'll have impact? Are you comfortable with your team? And the second part, in what aspects will England challenge you that Ireland and France didn't challenge you? What aspects of the game?
Yeah, in terms of the physicality, like I've mentioned last week, the World Cup's actually, the duration of the World Cup is actually a long tournament. So that's why we went with the mentality of rotating. So if you think about it, the majority of the group that played in the quarterfinal played against Ireland. So, and if you talk about physicality, I think that Tonga game was probably one of the most physical games that our players told us they played in. So I think, so in terms of a physicality point of view, the one group got nicely exposed to it against Ireland, and then the following week, the other group or the other part of our squad got exposure to it in the Tonga game, and so physicality is like any conditioning component. You have to get used to it. You have to condition yourself for it. So I think from that point of view, it put us up nicely for the game against France. And obviously the French game was physical. But like I said, listen, there wasn't, we went out, you know, our policy in terms of training. If you can't train on Monday, you can't play. So everybody was good and ready and they could train. So there wasn't any medical issues. So from a physical point of view, we got a nice stimulus from a physical point of view against France, and we will, that exposure, we'll need that experience going into England, because I think it will be the same like Sia mentioned now. If you look at their performances and their build-up during this competition, they improving every single game, they're getting better. And then where do I think they're going to challenge us? Yeah, like any team, I think, like I've mentioned last time with the French team, they've got they got a unique kicking game that they employ. The same with the English team. I think they're a team that's comfortable not playing with the ball. I think if you look at them, I think they're the team that kick the most, and they like to suffocate and strangle you, kick the ball in your half and wait for you to apply pressure there and wait for you to make a mistake. So we, from a tactical point of view, we know what's coming our way, and we must just make sure that we execute on the day.
Morning, Coach. Morning, Sia. Coach, from for you, the back row of England have been really impressive. Courtney Laws, Ben Earl, Tom Curry. Bar one of them, it's going to be a different back three than the last time you played them. Maybe just a word on them, the plan for them.
No, I think they probably, Sia will probably know them better than I do, because he will go into the detail and know the detail of every single one of them. But I mean, they're quality back row that complement each other quite well, you know, and even when they got a red card against Argentina, the way that the other two have fulfilled and just absorbed his role, you know, was quite impressive. So, yeah, they're a quality team. We obviously know them even through the Premiership games that they play, and a lot of our players play in the Premiership. So while following our players, we kind of see their performances as well. And but I think if you look at our back row, I mean, it's the same one that started in the World Cup final in 2019. I think they all on form. And they're also playing well, you know. So I think that's going to be a nice matchup from back row perspective.
Sia, good morning.
Morning.
Morning. A question for you about the rivalry between England and South Africa. I wonder if you could characterise how you see it personally, the rivalry between the two rugby nations. England have this kind of siege mentality at the moment that everyone hates them. I just wondered what your take is on England and where you get the stimulants when you play against them.
Yeah, man, I think the rivalry has been going on long before my time. And it's a big country, it's a big team, and it's always special to go and play against them at Twickenham or at home. But yeah, and I mean they play hard, you know, they play really hard, especially the games we played against them. Even after the World Cup, we lost when we got there. You know, it's always tough to win against them, and we don't play them all the time. We don't play them, so it's rare that we get to play them. So it's obviously a big game, and people hating them, I don't know. I don't worry about what. You know, that's got nothing to do with me. Everyone I play against, we wanna perform and show who we are as a team. So on the field, they're a great team. They've improved a lot, and the rivalry has gone long before us. So it's always good to play against them because it doesn't get to happen as often.
Jacques, if I can just ask you, how have England improved since the last time you encountered them in November last year?
I think, yeah, obviously they got a new coaching team, completely new coaching team, and yeah, I think Steve has embedded a game plan or game model that was different to the previous one under Eddie, and I think like everything, it takes some time to get used to it and to. Not to buy into it, but to get comfortable within it. And I just think the more time they spend together, they got just more comfortable in it. And I want to latch on to what Sia said about the hatred thing. I must say, with us having players there, so we obviously go and visit our players like Andre Esterhuizen at Harlequins, like Vincent Koch when he was still at Saracens. And I must say, we've always been met with open arms. When we went to Sale to see the De Pre brothers and Foff and Luat when they were still there, I mean, there hasn't been one club that we've wanted to visit that showed us a way. They always open it up to us, so they are really, really good with us. So from a hatred point of view, definitely not from our side. The relationship and working relationship within the regulations and of Regulation 9, they really are open and honest. No, obviously not giving any secrets away, but I mean they don't deny us access if we are within the regulations of World Rugby. So yeah, we certainly don't hate them.
Hi Jacques, Derek Foley from Ireland here. Could you just you've won a World Cup, you've won a World Cup without the URC. And now you're trying to win a World Cup with the URC. Could you just tell us what the difference between the Six Nations teams you've noticed and the Rugby Championship teams? What is the the melding into Europe given you?
I think the big difference is obviously probably from a, how can I put it? There's multiple factors, but the first one is obviously the weather. So in the Southern Hemisphere, I think the game has the tendency to be a little bit quicker because we always play our games, a majority of the times, in good fair weather, hard pitches, where when you play in the URC and you play over December, January, February, I mean, and you go and play at Connacht or you go, I mean, it can be treacherous. So you have to adapt your style of rugby to get a result. Where I think in the Southern Hemisphere, you pretty much, it's the odd game that you will have to adapt your style of play to fit in with the weather conditions. And then the other thing is from a coaching point of view, because you play a Welsh team and you play a Scottish team and you play an Irish team and you play a South African team and an Italian team, every country has its own unique style of play that you have to coach against. So you get exposure to a lot of different coaching styles and methods, and can I put it? Every team country has his own little soul, how they see rugby and how they play rugby. So you have to adapt to that. And then obviously refereeing, you have to adapt. This week you'll get a Scottish referee, the next week you'll get an English referee, the next week is a Welsh referee. So, and then I don't even talk about the playing surfaces. Then it's a 4G pitch, then it's grass. So I think that you have to be a lot more adaptive. In the Southern Hemisphere, probably altitude is the one thing, and the time zones, the travel that you have to adapt to, which is something in the Northern Hemisphere. I mean, if you at Munster and you play in Treviso, that's probably the longest journey you'll face, which is a couple of hours. It's literally in and out, where if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's 2-3 week tours that you have to get used to in different time zones. So I would say that's probably the difference in the two competitions.
Can I ask you, amongst the media, amongst your fans, I asked the same question to Rassie as well. There's an expectation that South Africa is the outright favorite heading to this match. In fact, some of the questions in this past week, in the build-up to this team announcement, was already about a possible match between New Zealand and South Africa. Is that the way you guys see it? Are you guys the favorites heading to this match?
No, obviously we don't. We don't see it that way because we know how good England is, and we know how good England is in the World Cups. You can see the previous World Cups, how they've played. And the team, as Jacques said, how they've changed, how hard they work. It will be silly, I think, to be thinking like that. And we've never been like that. It doesn't matter who we're playing. That's the most important game. We need to get through this game to give ourselves an opportunity to get to that, because I've seen in the World Cup, you've seen teams who are not even in the top 10 beating teams in the top 10, so it will be silly to think like that. We're not in that mind. We know exactly what they're going to bring and the motivation they have behind them.
Good morning, Sia. Good morning, Jacques. I mean, 2 quick questions for you, Jacques. Just back to team selection, what was the temptation to maybe just make a few changes here and there, considering that the fact that you said you have a fit team, and also when you look at England's semi-final record, they've won 3 and lost 1, which is quite impeccable from their side. You're not a person who likes to delve into history, but what do you also make of that?
I think I'll probably latch on to what Sia said now in the previous question, where I think probably it was, would we underestimate them and already start thinking about the final? And I think if you do that, I think England went into the previous World Cup semi-final against New Zealand probably being the underdogs as well. So I think, like Sia said, to stay in the moment, stay in the reality. The reality is we're facing England and a good England side. So, so we were, and we don't look at history, but I mean, we know that when we were probably, I don't know where we were ranked in 2019, and like Sia said now, any team can beat any team on the day. It's knockout rugby. I mean, this game isn't bigger than the quarterfinal against France, and it's not going to be bigger than the World Cup final. I mean, if you lose this game, you are out. So it's everything to gain. You play for everything to gain, if I can put it like that. So, and then your second part, actually your first question was
Tempting to change.
how to change. Like I said, yes, I think the gap, if we rotated and maybe started with Jasper or with Andre Esterhuizen, that has, if you think Jasper was player of the Premiership, I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, Andre Esterhuizen as well. So obviously they play against the English players a lot, and they were the top performance in the English league. So obviously you look at things like that. And that's why I think the gap is very small, and Andre and them know it. We're open and honest with him like that. Dukes and the guys who got selected, somebody asked me the other day, are the guys who's not being selected unlucky? No, they're not unlucky. The guys that got selected is not lucky. They got selected because they deserve it. And but I can tell you, there won't be a big difference if Andre or a Jasper or Faf starts, or or Lucanio is at 13. There wouldn't have been a big difference, and I don't think a lot of people will raise eyebrows if they were selected. And that's probably the positive of where we are in our squad as a group. There's 33 players that will be good enough, that have enough match exposure during this last 10, 11 test matches that we played, that they will be match fit, and they are all performing.
Jacques, another question on selection, if I can. Last week, when you announced the team to play France, it seemed, and you discussed it as if it was a horses for courses team, like a team you picked for that game. So you picked the same team today. Does that mean you think that England are similar to France, or is it more that you're settling on a team and a format that suits you best?
I think probably a little bit of both. I think if you go back from the start of 2022, when we started building the squad for the World Cup, we almost rotated every single week, and I think that's very tough on the squad. I mean, we all know that if you have continued selection, your chances of performance are better because they build relationships and bond between each other. So to have a victory against Wales the 1 week, and then in the second test match against Wales making 18 changes, obviously there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be it's not going to be as fluent as if you pick the same team, which is tough on the squad, and the players had to work through that. They had to mentally work through that, you know. So I think, and that's probably the resilience that got built within the squad through team selection, by not selecting the same team over and over. So we build, how can I say, squad depth and give exposure to a lot of players, and that's probably why we sit in the position now where Andre Esterhuizen is on form, Damien de Allende is on form. So I would say we've been doing that since the start of 2022 with a reason, but we all know continuity is probably one of there's a lot of factors to success, but continuity in team selection builds momentum, it builds confidence within the group. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
Jacques, down here, sorry. Hi. So on Tuesday, Rassie unveiled what he thought England's starting 15 might be. He couldn't pick the fullback. He had Freddie Stewart or Marcus Smith. The suggestions are now that Freddie Stewart is going to start there for England. What does that change for you guys, and how does that change your approach to the game, knowing that they're two very different threats at fullback, and what does it change?
I'm probably not going to go too much into tactical stuff, but yes, obviously, I think the one is a very creative player. I mean, Marcus, what a nice guy. When we went to Harlequins, yes, sometimes how you perceive a player, watching him play, you almost perceive arrogance, and then when you meet the guy, he's a nice, humble guy, always open and keen for a chat, but obviously he oozes creativity. Not to say Freddie doesn't, I mean, but he just have a little bit of a different skill set, and I think Freddie, obviously everybody knows he's incredibly good in the air, hard, strong runner, good defender. So tactically, not to say Marcus isn't, but tactically they're different. So yeah, we prepared for both scenarios. Yeah. of the two. We weren't sure between the two of them because I think Marcus had some sterling performances when he played 15, and that he'll probably give something different to the English side, where Freddie will give something different to the but positive in both ways. But they'll definitely, I think, will probably play a little bit different depending on who the fullback is.
Hello, Jacques. Hello, Sia. Sia, this one is for you. It's a question about Eben. Last Sunday against France, he was everywhere on the pitch. How would you rate his performance on that night? Given that all he's been going through this year with a shoulder injury, with the loss of his father as well, it seems it's been a difficult year for him. And just as a follow-up, still on Eben, with more than 100 caps, how important is he in the leadership group now of the Springboks?
Yeah, Eben was special last week. I think he always gives his 100% for the team before at trainings, how he sees the game, his input amongst the group, and yeah, and I think obviously when he got that yellow card as well, I know him, you know, he would want to pay back, you know, to the team. So he was huge last week, and obviously a lot of players played well, but yeah, he was really amazing. And yeah, it's been a year for him. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but he's strong. He's a strong guy. I've known him since I think we were 17 years old when we started playing against each other. He's one of the reasons why I went to the DHL Stormers, and we've gotten so close. Yeah, I've gained so much more respect for him, how well he's playing and how hard he's going, and what this team means to him. With everything that he's been through, there's been a lot of bumps along the way, but he's taken them, you know, with confidence. And I think his wife has really helped him in that as well. Obviously, his family. But I'm honestly proud of the person that he is and how strong he is, and what it means to the group. You know, he's the enforcer. He's the guy that makes sure the discipline is good amongst the team, and he's always there, you know, for anyone who needs help. This team means so much to him. That's why I think he'll fight through anything to be able to put that green and gold jersey. And I think that goes for the rest of the team. But him being the most experienced guy in the team, to see him fight through injuries and get back and to play the team, it just gives all of us, it inspires all of us, and it gets us going. And that really embodies what a Springbok player should be. So honestly, proud of him, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see him playing again this weekend.